again. Here we are on Super Bowl Sunday, and so of course I have on a Buffalo Bills sweatshirt, memories of decades past. Um, but that's okay. It's appropriate for the day, and I don't think you really mind if I have on a Bills sweatshirt or not. Anyway, um, I got to tell you, so far, 2 weeks into this, I am extremely pleased with the work that I am seeing you folks do. Your essays are really quite well thought out. Your comments on each other's essays are going quite well. With A Rose for Emily, that's a pretty involved story, and um, pretty much everybody picked up on the two very key factors, which tells me that you're reading closely. Okay, one, the fact that Homer Barron was somebody who preferred the company of men. I guess we'd say Homer Barron is gay. And so Emily has fallen for a gay guy and wants to marry him. And of course, Homer, doesn't want that. I'm sure that's part of why Emily kills him. The other thing that almost everybody saw, just about everybody, I'm not sure anybody missed it, was the fact that on the pillow next to where Homer's dead, decayed, skeletonous body was an imprint of a head on the pillow and a gray hair. And the gray hair would indicate that the old Emily was sleeping with Homer Barron, not just a younger version of Emily. So it's not just, the night that she brought him to her home and killed him that she slept with him, but, her hair turned gray in the interim, so I'm assuming it's for many decades afterwards. Okay, so if you read that and said, "Oh my God," and then you said, "Yuck," understandably, but there were really a lot of neat comments on Emily in different people's essays. It gave us a lot more insight into who people thought she was and what kind of a person people thought she was. I don't know if I just made this wiggle around a little bit. I actually accidentally moved my hand sideways on top of the pad here, and I don't know if that moved the screen back and forth. If it did, hopefully it didn't make you dizzy. Anyway, I'm working at one of my desks here, and there's pictures of my grandchildren behind me, which is kind of cool, and my kids when they were young back there. It's Canisius High School on the wall up there, their poster. But anyway, that's all irrelevant. That just kind of tells you where I am. Okay, so moving forward, keep being astute as you are. It seemed like pretty much everybody understood why the plot was what it was, why things were out of line, why you started at the end, went through a series of things, and then finished with the same place you started. Okay, beginning and end, because the plot was built around that. And so what was that scene of the smell and putting the lime on the lawn all about? Well, in thinking about that, hopefully you came up with the idea that what the people were smelling was actually Homer Barron's decaying body. But Emily, being from the Old South, as I had written in notes for you, people revered her as being from the Old South, and so they weren't going to insult her by telling her that her place smelled terrible. They weren't going to disturb her about this stuff because she was a Southern lady, and so you didn't disturb that. There was a lot of question as to why the manservant stayed, first of all, and then why he left at the end. Now, again, we're talking about a time when the South is changing, but there are still symbols of the Old South in this story, okay? And that manservant is one of the symbols of the Old South. What do I mean? The Old South was all about slavery. And generally, slaves were African Americans. And they were bound to work for somebody. They were not given their freedom until the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Well, okay, this story is set well after that, but I'm assuming that the Griersons, being old Southern family, and this servant who was working for them were, pre-Civil War, pre-freeing the slaves set up, and so this man stayed right on in the same position he had until he was totally free, which in fact was when Emily died. So if you're looking for an explanation as to why the servant stayed, again, yeah, he's a paid employee now, not a slave, but it's a life he knew. So he stayed there, and when Emily died, he was totally free. Obviously, he wasn't going to get paid anymore, so out the door he went. So anyway, enough of that story. We want to go on to other things. We want to talk about character development today, okay? Now, in life, characters develop. You are not the same person that you were 5 years ago. Okay? In a large way, you may not be the same person you were 3 weeks ago before the semester started. We all change, and we all change continuously. Over the course of a novel, you generally have a lot of time where things can change. In a short story, you generally only have a short period of time where things can change, and so a lot of times characters do not change, but sometimes they do. And so in fiction, we can designate characters as static or dynamic. A static character is a character who does not change. He's the same character at the end of a work, he or she, as he or she was at the beginning of a work. Okay? Static, stands still, doesn't change, same person all the way along, even. Okay? There are different kinds of static characters, okay? There is a flat static character, and this is a character who really has a singular focus, okay? He's dominated by a single quality or a single idea. All we really need to know, all that this person demonstrates is basically one focus, okay? Then we have a comic character. And a comic character is a little bit different. They have a single passion. Comic does not mean funny. Comic means unchanging, static, but it also means that experiences don't even change them. They stay the same character kind of no matter what's happening. So they are so flat that there's only a single facet to their personality. And then a third kind of static character is a caricature. He's a character that's so flat, there's so little to him that he's almost not even human. Okay? It's just, boom, this is all he is, and there's nothing else to his personality. That is a caricature. So it's fine differences, but in all of them, the character is the same at the end as they were at the beginning. Then we get to the dynamic character, and what dynamism is all about is change. Okay? A dynamic character is a character whose experiences change him. So a dynamic character is not going to be the same at the end of a work as that dynamic character was at the beginning of the work. A dynamic character changes from beginning to end. Now, is it always really obvious? There's always personal interpretation. It's the way you see a character a lot of times as to whether they're static or dynamic. A kind of dynamic character is a round character. And a round character is really pretty human. It's one in whom several traits may change. Several traits may blend. Okay? So these characteristics come together to make him dynamic. So a dynamic character, a kind of dynamic character is a round character where he's more than just a different person at the end than at the beginning. We've also seen a number of things in him change. And again, we're all kind of rounded as people. We have a lot of parts to our personality. So this week we want you to look at characters, and I'll give you the whole assignment in the writing. And the question for you is this. Besides... Well, in one of the stories we read, there's a character named Georgiana. Okay? What is the most important thing about Georgiana from your perspective? Okay? Have a good week. We'll see you next week.